Okay, first one. Efficiency and profitability both require pricing. Do you have standard pricing for services, revenue percentage, transaction count? Do you also recommend a standard annual price increase?
So I can start with that. So we do have a flat fee pricing. We have a minimum on both our bookkeeping and personal and corporate tax returns. So everybody is at least at that minimum. And then we don't do it based on transaction, but more, if they have more than the normal bank accounts and credit card accounts. One key thing that we put into place is a 90-day review of their service agreement. So if I give them a service agreement and we've agreed on X and X amount of money per month, within that first 90 days, if I feel that it should be more than that based on what they told us and what actually is, then we can change that in that first 90 days.
Yeah, so similar to Kim, I think what we do is I like to have like a menu option. So we have a minimum, which what we call is core bookkeeping. And when you sign on, you know that you're at least paying that minimum payment and that it's just a flat fee. After that, everything is a menu option. So if you want receipt tracking, if you want a meeting every month, if you want to have video recordings of me just explaining the financials every month, just a little bit of everything, right? So accounts payable, accounts receivable, it kind of adds on. And so having that minimum helps us, honestly, having some clients that can only afford the bookkeeping. And those clients that really care about having those financial meetings, if they can afford it, awesome. Great for us, great for them. And as far as like price increases, I do think it's important. We do have like we don't have an annual price increase, but I would recommend at least having an annual review. I like Kim's approach, doing at least 3 months though, when you get a new client, especially with cleanups. Nobody's getting a brand new bookkeeping client because they love their current bookkeeping system. They're coming to you because it's a mess. And no matter how great your workflows and your systems are, there's going to be some unknowns. You're going to uncover some things that you don't know. And I love the approach of having the 90 days because in those 90 days you're going to find some skeletons that you need to work out, and most likely that comes with a price increase.
I love this answer, and I'm going to add a different take on it just because I'm going to complement what they're saying with some averages. There's some national averages that I would encourage you to be familiar with, and before I give you the averages, I'm going to tell you what you should do with your business. If I were you, I would take basically your clients and categorize them by bookkeeping, accounting, tax, and actually, if you can, in your chart of accounts, start breaking out the services so that you're in your own P&L, you're actually breaking out the various packages that you're offering. These are bookkeeping services versus the accounting services. And the reason why I'm explaining it this way is because if you do this, you can then take the number of bookkeeping clients, just to use that as an example, you can divide that into the total revenue you're generating and come up with what your average is for your services. And the reason why that's so valuable is there are national averages, and if you're in line with those, whichever pricing method you're using, you at least know that you're pricing at least appropriate to the averages so that you're being paid fairly. So the average bookkeeping rate is about $500 per client. That's, we've got Deborah's $6,000 a month bookkeeping client that she's got, and you've got the one you're charging $350 or the minimums that you have. But your average should be at a national level, regardless where you are, 500 and higher. So if you've got your average at 500 and higher, you're doing well. And the same would be with like tax. If you're doing individual tax returns, you should be about 250 plus. I've seen it range between 250 and 350 for the individual returns. So that's an average to kind of guide towards. Your business tax returns, they're typically around $1,200 to $1,500. So if you're using those averages and you've broken out your chart of accounts so that you can actually calculate this, it'll at least know whichever method you're using, it's in line with what you should be paid. Does that make sense? Good, I'm seeing some good head nods. Excellent.
Very good, thank you. I think this one is a good one for Kim. On average, how long should it take to complete a 1040 tax return from start to finish? What about corporate or partnership returns?
1040, I don't feel there's a flat answer because a 1040 can have a Schedule C, it can have some rental properties, you could have 15 pages of cryptocurrency sales. Which are a lot of fun. As far as the corporate in our office, a total roundabout takes about 4 hours. So for corporate, that would be going through their QuickBooks file, preparing the work papers in the set process that I want them, and then being input into the tax program, and then me doing the final review on it. So 4 hours is about an average time for us for the corporate. The personal, like I said, I mean, we have some that we can crank out in 30 minutes, and some of them are going to take 3 hours, depending on what they have going on.
I don't do taxes, but I think, kind of combining some of the last answer that Roger said. Similarly, you would want to keep track of your time. So you would, similar like Roger said, you would want to have there's a national average of what you spend or how much money you're making per service. I would assume with something like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's probably a good way to track how much time you're spending on that and make sure that you are at least you're not spending too much time on average per client per form.
Yeah, we do, my staff does track their time for each of their projects, not necessarily for the billing, but so that I can make sure that our billing is in the right place. And we do, once a year, I sit down with each bookkeeper, we pull up their clients, and we go through what was their average per month that it took them to do that work. And are we billing the client enough? Did we take too long because it was something on our side? Or did we take too long because it was something on their side? And then we discuss each one with them individually and kind of go through and see who we need to increase each year.
This is awesome. I'm loving this. All right, I'm going to give you some averages again. For the 1040, you're looking at 1 hour per return. Now, somebody's going to say, well, an hour? Are you kidding me? Okay, bear with me. If you take the number of filings you did and you had the individuals that did the work, the total hours they worked, you should be able to actually quickly do the math and say, did they average 1 return for every hour worked? And here's why. When you're first taking on the client, there's typically that interaction of acquiring the forms and so forth, maybe interacting with the client saying, how was life? What's the past year been like? Did you get married? Did you get divorced? Did you have a kid? Okay, that intake coupled with you need to come into the office, I need you to sign the forms, I need you to do this, or I'm missing this, that communication back and forth, you should be averaging 1 return per hour. If you can do better than 1 per hour, generally speaking, you're going to be doing well in the sense that you've got the processes and systems in place to be very, very efficient. So that's the rule of thumb that you're looking for. So if at the end of tax season you did 300 returns and your employees did 300 hours, okay, this is making sense or better. The other is business returns. You said 4 hours. That's awesome. I understand the national average is 8 hours. So 8 hours is, again, meeting with the client, getting the necessary forms, back and forth communication to get necessary information, preparing the document, having them come in and sign the document. It's all that interaction. So if at the end of the tax season you've actually done so many returns, you theoretically should be able to divide that by the number of hours spent on those returns and see that you're doing better than 1 per 8 hours, or in your case, 4 hours. So you're doing phenomenal. So those are some averages to consider in your firm.
Very good. Thanks, you guys. And thanks for breaking all that down. That's really helpful. Jaime, let's start with you on this question. What is your favorite process you put into place in your firm?
So my favorite process, actually, and I'll take you even further back, the worst mistake I've made, maybe there's a question about that later, was not having a process and hiring somebody hoping that they would fix that for me. Big mistake, set them up for failure. So the next hire that I had, I wanted to make sure that I set up these workflows correctly and to even have workflows. So the best thing that I did was have a system where everybody can log on. Not only are there instructions on how to do everything, there's a video portion of it, there's a checklist. So the idea behind it is that when on the system that I use for project management and task management, they start by watching the video. The very first time they do it, I'm kind of virtually holding their hand to do the work. And the next step is they start to really learn that really well so that they don't need to watch the video. If the video is 15 minutes long, it's probably taking them double to stop, follow me along. And now, once they start really getting the hang of the things, they can just kind of look at the worksheet with the instructions. And that instead of taking 30 minutes, it's taking what it took me 15 minutes. And if they get really efficient, the next step is there's a checklist. Now this checklist is going to be a summary of everything that's in that video, but kind of like 5 to 7 steps is where I try to keep it. So just very like summary steps where they can just come in, check that off, and I have that for just, I would say 95% of my tasks have a video, written out instructions, and a checklist for all of them.
Very good. Did you want to add anything, Kim? What is your favorite process you've put into place in your firm?
I think one of the best processes we have is a specific client contact sheet for each one of our bookkeeping clients and our corporate tax clients. It just lists who the contacts are, their info, but then for the bookkeeping ones, there's a section for the bookkeeper of, okay, this particular client, Amazon is always this. For this particular client, you know, when they go to the gas station and it's under $5 and it's them buying ice. You know, it's those specifics so that if that bookkeeper can't take care of it, the next one can pick it up and take care of it no problem, because they don't have to go back to the client and ask those questions that we shouldn't have to ask them anymore, because we should know the answer for that particular client already. We have the same thing on the corporate tax client level. We have a checklist of, did they get a new retirement plan this year? Do they have tips that we need to worry about a tip credit? There's like only about 6 or 8, but just key points so that we can make sure that we've asked that. So then when it comes to me for the final review, I don't have to go and ask the client something that my staff's already asked them. It's documented right there.
Wow, very good. Yeah. So this next one, we had a number of questions that were very similar along these lines, so we've condensed it to this. So this is definitely very important information they're going to want to get from you here. What is the best platform to organize team workflows and SOPs?
That's a great question. The best answer I can give you is the best software is going to be the one that you use. What I would recommend doing is trying a couple of different ones. I don't think there's one that is one size fits all. When working with software, there's going to be pros and cons to everyone. Some have strength, some strengths are the other's weaknesses, etc. So what I would do is just try out a couple of different ones. Which one are you actually going to use? I've tried several that I hated, I didn't use, and it made no sense for me to actually be using and paying for that. So the best software you can use is, or the best software for you is going to be the one that you're actually going to use. I can sit here and give you a tech stack of softwares that, and I can do that. I like to use Keeper for like task management software. I've used Asana before as well. I use Keepful, which we have a booth out there. Yeah, so I use Keepful for like my the CRM, and then once they jump on board, they move on to Keeper. But I really don't think there's a software that's a one size fits all. I think the answer is the one that you're going to use is, and the one that fits your needs the best is the one that you should be using.
Yeah, I mean, we personally use Onvio. That's the software that goes with our suite. It works with our tax software, and we use it for our client database management and the projects. It can ping the next person in line to say, okay, this person finished their part of the project, so now it's on you, and it can go down the list and mark it completed, and it gives us a budget of how much time it should take us to complete it.
You mentioned tech stack, and that's the next question. The top tech stack, if you could only use 3 tools, what would you say? Kim?
So 3 things that I actually just recently implemented some of them. One is called SafeSend. It's the way that we are now sending our tax returns to our clients. It sends it to them. They have to pay first before they can view the tax return. Then they get the tax return, but one thing I love about it is they sign it right there. We get notification. The client gets reminder notifications, and when the estimates are coming due, they get reminder notifications when the voucher is due for the actual tax return, and we don't have to worry about that. It gives them the vouchers right there, and they can see everything. The other thing that we're using is called Anchor, and that's what we're doing for our billing now, and it just goes automatically. We don't have to think about it. The clients get billed, they get drafted from whatever source they picked, and we don't have to worry about that. So those are my favorite 2 right now. They've saved us a lot of time and money.
Yeah, I'm going to echo some of those. So assuming QuickBooks or some kind of accounting software is not part of the top three, right? I love Anchor. I recently moved to them too. Also, I think it's really good. I think it's a really good platform for those that maybe are a little shy about raising your prices. You can have an automatic price increase on there. So if you want to just kind of set it and forget it and say, hey, sorry, you didn't do it. It was the software. It's a really good way to do that. But it kind of like lessens the blow, right, of having the awkward conversation. You have that conversation once when they sign on. We have automatic increases, and you set it and forget it, kind of. So like you described, I think it's a really good tool. They do one thing really good, and I think sometimes when tools try to do too much, it does kind of hurt them. So like Anchor doing just proposals and focusing on that, they do a really good job of that. I use Keepful for, like I said, for my CRM. And while Keepful has the proposal component of it, I love Anchor. And like I mentioned, there's softwares that can do so much, but there's time that you might like this one component from this other software. And I think Anchor does such a good job, so much that I stick with them. So I love that aspect of it, of just kind of getting paid every month automatically. And so I use Keepful for CRM. That would be my second one. And then my task management software with Keeper. And then I use them for presenting financial statements as well.
I'm going to add to this. One, agree that accounting software off the table. I mean, we love what we do number-wise. I'm going to add 3 on there. One, you need to have a CRM, Keepful, excellent solution in the sense that you need a way to manage your contacts. And I'm referring to from a marketing point of view of first finding someone to that nurturing of here's somebody that eventually could become a customer to now they're a client, they're engaged with me. So that whole CRM process, I think, is something that we oftentimes neglect or fall down on. There's so many workflows that we can build in there that are automated that help us be more productive with our time, a little bit more intentional with the experience of the customers. They're going through that journey to become a client of ours. So that CRM thing is definitely essential. The second part of that would be a calendar. Time is my least affordable, or it's the most costly thing I have, and it's the thing I need to manage the most. And so a calendar that really facilitates a few things. One, it's less back and forth of when we can meet. Two, it's when it's convenient for them based on when I'm available. I mean, there's just so much available through that calendar to manage my time because it is so valuable. The third is part of this onboarding, but it's the engagement, the recurring billing like you were discussing with Anchor and such. You've got to find a simple way that you can, through an engagement, say, here's what I'm having you do, here's what you're agreeing to do, here's what it's costing, and then through that get the recurring billings going. And so if you've got some way to document that, organize it, such as Anchor, I think that's a phenomenal thing to simplify your life. There's a list of all the tasks that you've been paid to do. Did you do them? They're paying you. I mean, those 3 things, the CRM, the calendaring system, and then the engagement being automated and being clear, I think are 3 essentials.
Very good. Did you guys get the names of everything that was said here, the tech names? Rogers?
Keepful.
Oh.
I use Keepful.
Keep.
Roger uses.
I use Keepful and Zoho. Those are the 2 I use, Keepful and Zoho. And we do use Anchor as well, so what they were saying about Anchor I'm very familiar with.
All right, now go back to the time when you were just starting out. We're just back to the basics. We're getting our dipping our toes in, putting ourselves out there. This person, I'm just starting out. This can be overwhelming to sit in these and hear all of these and feel like I got to jump on board on all of this, or I'm not going to be able to keep things on track and my leads are going to fall through. So let's really simplify for those who are getting started. What is the essential tech to start my business, and why are they essential? Just keep it real basic. What do they need?
So I'm all about bootstrapping. When I started my business, that's exactly what I did. I found the free versions of anything that I could find. For project management, I used Asana, the free version. I don't even know if that stuff still exists, like the free versions of it. For document signature at that time, it was bought by Dropbox. I forget what the name of the company was. That was it, yeah.
HelloSign.
Yeah, HelloSign, yeah. And Yes, so that's exactly what it was before too. You get 5 signatures a month for free. When you're starting out, you're not having 5 proposals sent out. So find anything like that. I love bootstrapping a business is the way to go. You know, we have a booth out there. Do I want y'all to come in and join? Of course, but I'm also, if you're asking me for advice as a bookkeeper to bookkeeper, I'm saying no. Like it's the right time to get a CRM, something like what we have, is when you can afford it. The last thing I'd want for you is to be paying something that's not worth your time or something you're not using. So bootstrapping for the proposal software, finding a free version, they're out there, getting free versions of task management software, or just using your your free calendar that you have. And then honestly, everything else, I know that I'm sure throughout the entire last couple of days, we've been talking about automation, and there's big buzzwords about AI and things, how to implement AI into your practice. But if you start just really practically speaking, you type out those emails yourself, you're not having AI doing it, do it. I honestly think it's really good practice to do that, and you kind of refine your approach anyways. So as far as like must-haves, I think just finding free versions of every task. I think whenever I started my bookkeeping business, I probably had less than $50 a month in recurring expenses. So I mean, it's very, very doable.
So I've worked with a number of individuals that, I like the bootstrap analogy, started with the bare bones. And I think that's very appropriate. I think too often the glitz and glamour of all the shiny objects of what you want outweigh what you can afford. So don't put yourself into a position where you're doing exactly what you're telling your clients not to do. So bootstrap yourself, make it so that this is profitable as quickly as possible. But in that light, one of the things that I'd emphasize is I have oftentimes worked with people who literally come, start their business, get a client, they haven't gotten their business license, they don't have a merchant account yet, they're getting that credit card and they're like, okay, I've got a client, they've agreed to the services. It was pretty unclear, but they've agreed. They've given me a credit card. How do I charge this? Okay, I gotta go get the merchant account. Okay, I've got their credit card processed. Okay, I need a business license. I gotta go get that taken care of. And so it's put things in perspective. There's a statement we use at Universal. It's from the book In the Black. Nothing happens until you make a sale. There's a lot of busy work you can get consumed by. Now, all of you, I'm going to trust, are well beyond this bootstrap analogy, but the point is what do you start with? You start with what you need to get the sale. Start there, and then I think it'll just naturally evolve into the free services that you were alluding to. There are a lot of things out there that are phenomenal, and they have teasers, trial packages, things that you can get in and say, you know, for 2-3 months, I'll try this out. Well, that's what you're looking for. It's that lead time enabling you to now get a second, third, fourth client. Now you've got the revenue stream. So always kind of keep that in perspective. So Jaime, thank you for that.
Thank you. I just want to add something here. You know, I have a soft spot for those who are starting out. Those are the ones that I'm coaching, a lot of those that I'm coaching at Universal. And what I see is a lot of this, you know, I've got to get all these ducks in a row first. I got to get all these things set up before I put myself out there. And before you know it, you're just kind of circling around and not landing anywhere. So it's really important. So thank you for taking us back to the basics and just showing up and taking action. That's when I met Roger, and I think this is an important story. I started my business at 40, and I showed up to a networking meeting before I had all my systems in place or knew exactly what was going on. I was actually advertising something totally different. But we connected in the networking meeting, and he started to ask me, what can you do? What can you provide? And I just kind of went with it. At one point he said, I do an online course, and so I'm gonna need videos. How many videos can you do? And I said, 6. And then I had to figure out how to do 6 videos, and I had to go get a camera, but it's doing the sale, right? It's taking the action, and then things are gonna unfold from there. So just watch yourself getting in a spin that seems productive of, I'm gonna figure this out and get it in place. But if it's taking a while and you're just circulating and you're not making sales and you're not going out there, then you need to back up a little bit and just say, just what's the next thing? And then the rest will unfold. Okay. Let's start with Kim on this. You got the microphone. What are the most effective systems or tools you've seen firms use to streamline client onboarding from proposal to kickoff, especially for solo or small accounting practices trying to scale without sacrificing client experience?
So we have a template, client onboarding template that goes to each client once we've met with them and made the sale, they've agreed that they want to do business with us. We send them the service agreement electronically outlining what we've discussed of what services we're going to provide. Once they sign that, then the account manager reaches out to them with a onboarding template letter saying, welcome to Ancient City Accounting. We're so happy you're here. Here's the next steps. We need you to, give us access to your bank. We need you to do this. And you can choose to have a Zoom meeting with us, come on in, or just have a phone call so that we can go through these few steps. But it's a standardized letter that goes to everybody that signs on so that we know exactly what we need to get from them. And once we have all the information, that's when we'll actually start working on them. So we won't start working on their books. One of the speakers mentioned this earlier this week too. We don't start working on the books until they've given us access to their banks, access to their credit cards, access to payroll, so that then we can actually do our work.
I don't have anything to add to that. I do something very similar. Through Keith will just kind of keep, once they sign on with me, we have a template that goes out that says, here's a list of what we need. And that email also has a calendar link that says, if you need help getting these, happy to hop on a Zoom call with you. Click here, jump on a calendar.
All right, our last question. What tech stack is recommended for a niche to manage multi-entity clients? Also merges and acquisitions.
So I actually really like Keepers. They have a functionality because I think the biggest headache with that when you have a business owner that has multiple entities is there's money going in and out, and so you got due to and due from. It's like the biggest nightmare, making sure that reconciles from one company to another. And Keeper, I'm sure there's other softwares that do this, but Keeper does a really good job of making sure that that's already reconciled for you so that those numbers match always. If you make an adjustment on one company, it's making that adjustment for you in the other one as well.
I just have my girls check it. No. We just make sure that the same bookkeeper is doing all of the businesses so that they are able to see those flows going back and forth, and they know that this transaction in this company is going to affect the other, and they can make sure that everything's coded correctly. So.
All right, very good.
Let's do a final thought.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go back down the line and have Jaime first give us some final thoughts, anything that's come to mind during this conversation that you think would be helpful.
Yeah, so I thought coming in, I was expecting a lot of the questions to kind of be tech related, tech stack related. I think they were more tech stack related than I even expected. And I think to summarize, one of the things that I said is to find the software that works for you, the one that you're actually going to use. And I think that's probably the best advice I can give. And I've mentioned Keeper and I've mentioned Keepful. Those are the ones that I've used. I want to really clarify that they're not the same company because we've had people that think that we're the same. I use Keeper. I have no stake in that. I have no idea. I know the guys at Keeper and I love them, but I would check them out if you haven't. Another thing that came to mind while Roger was talking, when we were talking about the tech stack, when somebody asked, I'm just starting, what is essential? Well, I think also just finding apps that you can grow with. So those apps that they don't charge you unless you're making money, right? So like, for example, to use Anchor, they have their model, their whole system is essentially free until you start making money. They don't get paid until you get paid. So finding those softwares that they're client-based. So again, depending on how big your firm is, that's how much you're paying them. And so that really allows you, as you're starting out, to grow with them as well.
So on the non-tech side of things, I know SOP is like a 4-letter word to most people, and you really don't want to do them. But to put it in perspective, a couple of years ago, I went on a 2-week transatlantic cruise with my son, and I did not buy the internet package, and everything was fine when I got back. I mean, it doesn't have, you just have to have the processes in place so that it can get taken care of. Half my staff is out this week on vacation, and I'm not there, and things are still getting done and still happening. So you just have to put it in place and just start from the beginning. And if you're afraid to hire somebody because you don't have that process in place yet, as you're training them, they write the process for you as you're training them. You've got to take time to either write a process or to train them. So train them and make them write the process for you.
So I'm going to do a good news, bad news. Bad news, we recently hired someone, did not have it recorded as well as we thought the SOPs for the position. I think more than anything, it set the individual up for failure, and unfortunately it didn't work out. And through that process, it just put a spotlight on our SOPs aren't as clear as we thought. So I do want to stress that that is essential. On a good side, just to give you some experience, I'm old enough, unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, to be able to say that I've gone through paper transitions to digital or workflow type experiences. Literally, it only existed in a paper format prior to this, and we had to actually now recreate it in a digital environment. In those situations, I've experienced the best way to do that, before purchasing a software platform, before buying into a process that's unfamiliar to you, you've got two choices. Take your system and really understand what you're doing, and physically take what you're working with, like pieces of paper, and do if-then statements. And you just walk through on a dry erase board with sticky notes on the floor. You go through the entire process and go, this is what we do. And now, understanding what we do, what we like, and what we feel works for us, is there a system out there that mirrors this or can be complementary to this, that we can adapt to this? Or are we open to taking someone else who's put a lot of time, money, R&D in creating a system, and are we willing to adopt it? Because you're going to have, it's one or the other oftentimes. It's either your way or that way. You can't oftentimes really merge them. And so if you're willing to now say, I'm going to go, let's say, with Keeper, well, that's great. Keeper's wonderful. Everybody loves it. But you're going to have to go all in, is my point. When you do that, go in and say, I'm going to adopt the Keeper way. We're going to train on the Keeper way. We're going to embrace it entirely. We're going to go all the way through the training process and really onboard ourselves with it. And I think that's where the biggest failing is I hear people say, I see this shiny object, I buy into this platform, I start using it, and then they move on within weeks, if not a month, and they never fully integrate it into the company. And then they start screaming frustration over the fact that it doesn't really work. Well, it's because you never either one, trained it, fully implemented it, or used it. And that would be my advice. Understand what's happening, and those that you've embraced, go all in. Do their trainings, lean onto their tech support, and by doing so, you'll get to the point where you're an advocate, a proponent of the platform, because you're saying it actually works. This is how we do business. That's what everybody that swears about QBO is. They're all QBO. Why? Because is it the only way to do the accounting? Of course not. But it is the way that they've basically said is our way. So that's my advice.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. Super valuable. Jaime, Kim, and Roger, thank you so much.